That's what's
Today
happening.
when you speak to a group of parents,
Yeah.
they all admit that we are going through this kind of
Yeah.
challenges.
Yes.
But at the same time, they are unable to do anything about
Yeah.
it because they don't want to be singled out.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
So
they are
go
helpless.
with the trend.
Yeah. And they're
then
helpless.
there's a group of parents who will also keep on supporting this
Yeah.
thing going on because they will get the advantage of the situation.
They have
So-
their own trauma. That's what's driving it. It's a collective trauma. We call it also collective trauma. Collective trauma can be in groups of people also. The indigenous people, the racial groups, they have the collective. They say in America, the black women have a very high ratio of asthma because they have to put up with a lot and they try to protect the family from that, the children and all. So they take it all in and their rate of asthma is extremely high. So they have done a lot of studies like that. I think someone was going to ask something. Was it? Yes.
Well, this is a personal experience
Yeah.
and it may sound fairly funny also.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Can you explain
Yeah.
bringing up children very freely
Yeah.
to a point where everybody is shocked that they have so
Yeah.
much of freedom and
Yeah.
whether they're going to end up and all that. And finally they are
So that's being indulgent or actually just be free?
letting them
Do whatever they want.
Yeah, as of course within certain boundaries and so on, but much freer than anyone else.
Okay.
Right? And they're ending up very successful. But here is the issue. When they bring up their children, they bring them up in a very tight and very pushy. And when I question them, look, this is not the way you were brought up. And they say, well, I mean, the world has changed. We have to keep up to certain standards.
Yeah.
You see?
So when you said they were allowed to be very free and they grew up to be very nice people,
Right.
sometimes being very nice is an adaptation. So when they were allowed to be, it's not about just letting them do anything. That's not about being, it's about, you have to have boundaries. You have to tell the child, you have to guide the child. It's not about just do anything you want, it's okay. That also can cause trauma. And then sometimes, and an adaptive mechanism is about being a very nice person. So that could be, I don't know in this particular case without knowing that case, but that could be one explanation, and they are transferring. So they are now working in the opposite way, being very controlling of what the children do.
But why does
Yeah.
being a nice person have to do that you're...
Yeah, so these very nice people who are really, really nice, and because they cannot say no. Because they are unable to say no. So they deplete themselves, they stress themselves from the belief, I'm not good enough. It could be that is the bigger belief. So what do I do? If I feel unconsciously I'm not good enough, I need to do something about it. So I'm being very nice to everybody. Can you do this for me? Yes. Can you do this for me? Yes. But I'm depleting myself. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But I cannot say no. And I'm feeling angry, but I'm keeping it inside me, suppressing it. And guess what? They have linked anger, suppressed anger and cancer. They're now linked. This is all research. This is not my story. All based on research. So that being a very, very nice person, you're doing it at a cost to your health. But also, you can also be nice in an authentic way, in a genuine way. But then you will have your boundaries. If you actually cannot handle it, it's too much, you'll say, I'm really sorry. Today I'm exhausted. I won't be able to do this for you. But there are some people who just cannot say that. They feel compelled to do it, and they are actually paying a big price when they're doing that. And they're depleting their energy because it's not coming from a whole place, whole healed place of really wanting to have.
They are
Genuine. Yeah. So that person will know. No problem. Just ask any question. I know, as I said, I don't know everything. If I don't know, I'll tell you. Yeah, pardon?
If we are genuine, we should be able to find out whether the other is
No, not really, but that person will, if you ask that person, if that person is coming up with symptoms or problems by helping, and being exhausted and depleted and cannot cope or whatever, or neglecting their other work, their priorities are mixed up because they're helping everybody else. Yeah.
I'm just thinking aloud.
Yes.
Could it be part of the continuous evolutionary process of human beings, where situations change and you adapt to those situations and you become a different kind of a species? Because
I don't know
you
to answer.
cannot compare what exists.
That adaptation, and the adaptation here is something different. I think you're talking about a different adaptation. So if we go on like this,
greater evolutionary process.
Evolution, I have no knowledge to talk about it. I wouldn't know.
Because even under present circumstances, kids who are facing similar circumstances, they react differently.
Yeah.
And there are people, there are kids who cope with these situations and still do good, do well. Right? And those who fall by the wayside or react differently. Yeah. So it could be, we are not going to stand still, no species.
Possible, I wouldn't know that. Yeah, but
it's a continuous evolutionary process.
Possibly.
So what was applicable to maybe what happened in a couple of generations ago is not valid anymore.
Yeah, only thing is, only thing is what's happening is it's making us unhealthy. It's giving us illness.
That's our opinion about it.
No,
but
it's on
maybe
research.
Looking back after a few generations, looking back, we might, tell a different story.
Possible, I wouldn't know that. But from what I would say is that the statistics say that they've never been so many children have never been medicated ever before for mental health, physical illness, adults, and the numbers are growing. There's climate change, there are wars going on, a lot of collective trauma. So we might either evolve or you might get annihilated. But I'm talking about how trauma, how trauma takes place, and then what do we do?
Maybe
Yeah.
the way he says,
Yeah.
maybe this is the new normal.
Yeah. So do you want to accept it that way? You could either accept it, this is the new normal, and then maybe I might evolve to another level, but it's completely up to us.
In that case, why is this so much of, you were talking about mental renaissance, and so why are people realizing this is not normal? And what he said, the second child, the first child was free, the second child, I'm thinking whether that child was moved into a high performance, one of those societies, and they see what is around. It's an environmental thing.
And
they
change their
just try to what he said. I have seen with some of my own friends. Now see, rather than accepting the child for what they are, and support them in terms of what they're good at, some parents try to achieve what they could achieve through the child.
Exactly.
So as a result, there could be a push and get them to do this.
That is coming from their trauma.
Yeah. So as a result, I have seen even, especially in terms of sports, I have seen a child who actually is good at, say, cricket as a result of the parental push. They have ended up not actually achieving. Whereas if he was left alone, he probably would have achieved much more. So I think that parental push I have seen with my own friends, that rather than supporting them for what they are and what they are good at, they try to achieve what they couldn't.
Happens all the time. And
parents' trauma.
Yes.
And to answer your question, ultimately it's our choice. Do we do something about it? Or do I not? It's completely left to us. No one can push us, or somebody can give you without knowing, put a pill in your mouth, but to do this work, no one can force you. It's completely has to be of your own volition and interest.
Yardsticks that we are using today, are they the right yardstick? Becomes another question.
Exactly.
You see, sometimes we are also basing all our thoughts, etc., as to how the world should be based on our own experiences. Okay?
Which may be right or wrong.
Correct,
How do
correct.
we know that, right?
So we also have a very limited tunnel vision in looking at the world. We have also not changed, the way that we should be looking at the future of the world, because the children of 50 years back and 100 years back and children today, they have a different kind of a, change environment. Are we recognizing that as parents today? Are we able to, see that? So we are in a dilemma as well.
And another phenomenon is, this principle of survival of the fittest, right? So we have 8 billion people. Where are we going to end up? So maybe there's a natural elimination process, right? And some who can cope with these situations will survive, and others will perish or not survive.
Or go to Mars.
I must say something there. I think this idea of survival of the fittest has been misinterpreted, and
it's about competition.
So maybe I'm
it has
giving
become
a
so
connotation
toxic
to it.
because of that.
It
But
is,
we cannot ignore the fact that only those who are fit have survived. So
I think that could be another topic that we should really expand and talk about
So,
in a separate
yes.
forum. The idea of survival of the fittest.
That is coming from a place of competition in the modern
and
world.
that has resulted in the toxic culture we have now, which
Exactly.
is annihilating ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think we have got it really wrong, understanding Charles Darwin somewhere. Or he has, misinterpreted
the word
The word is
fittest.
missing.
Yeah. What does it mean to be fittest?
Yeah.
Kamal, you mentioned about some children do well, but on whose parameters is that? Who's defining that well? Good or the bad? So there are lots of things to discuss, but probably not today, but that's a really interesting point that you bring out.
Thank you. Okay,
What I
thank you.
was
Yeah.
gathering, listening to all this, now the topic itself is a journey for healing.
Yeah.
But probably maybe because we are parents and we have that, the natural instinct,
Yeah.
to put things straight. I think I personally feel I'm not looking at my own self, whether I'm traumatized. It's just that we try to, make our children
External.
correct without looking. Listening to all this, I was thinking, where did I felt the trauma? Like, what have I done now to, make
Recover.
it, and plus, how would have I affected another?
I probably
Right.
don't even know what my trauma is.
Yeah, exactly.
I know there's something wrong with me,
Because-
but I don't know what is wrong with me. It's that bad.
So,
You don't realize that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also on the term fittest, I
Yeah.
think there itself is, what was deemed fit during Darwin's time was probably being able to survive in the jungle, right?
Exactly.
But now the term fittest might actually be being able to heal and be happy,
Yeah.
rather than just survive
Exactly.
that response.
Yeah.
So now, like you said, the cancers that are caused by anger, the asthmas, show that if you don't heal, you're not the fittest.
Yeah.
It's the ones who, if you heal to be fittest, so that can be...
Yeah, actually during the hunter-gatherers, evolution of the hunter-gatherers, you had to survive, right? You went hunting, and you had to rely on your gut instinct. And gut instinct is never wrong.
And you have to beat the other person.
Yes, and when the animal, the predator or somebody comes, you got to rely on your gut feeling to survive. That was survival. And gut feeling is never wrong, because the gut, there's a big nerve called the vagus nerve going from the brain right up to the stomach, the vagus nerve. So it sends, we think it's all here, but it sends messages here. And if you're really authentic, your gut, you'll be really connected to your gut feelings, and you'll never be wrong. But you've got to be authentic, otherwise we just wrap all that up, and we are not aware.
Then the fittest means getting your gut feeling right.
Gut feeling right means you've got to be authentic.
And the
How do you
fittest
get back
at
to your
that time-
authenticity?
Fittest at that time was a very hard skill. Today, fittest, I believe, is a very soft element. Okay, so we are using the hard, the theory into, putting that into today's life, whereas it should be more of a soft element that we should be looking at when we talk about fittest in today's context. The people who win today are the fittest, not from the hard skill, from a softer.
So for you, hard means you could have died when you got killed, but the soft is
confrontational.
Yeah, so it is you are physically dead, but for soft you is emotionally dead.
Emotionally managing.
Okay. So which is more difficult? Right. Is it one is easier than the other? Okay, right. So can I continue? Yes.
Rimal wants to continue. So with regard to disability question, I want to know Sepali's view on how to help people with disability overcome their trauma and improve their mental health. So that's basically
Therapy, because that seems the level of trauma is high on a scale. Depends on your scale. There are a lot of things you can do. So one is therapy. It's if it's more on the higher side of the scale.
And on that note, remember I first instance said that
Sorry, yes, you did.
we said if we say no at a stretch and we cannot be how we recover, that's one's question. That being said, say in a particular set of parents, when they have their child, basically go on, they say no, they don't say no. Eventually there's trauma in the marriage and basically they deplete to a point that one stops. Now there's a child in between who's also traumatized with that tag of war. In that matter, how could things be turned around?
You got to start with yourself. You got to start with yourself. It's always us. We can't change the world. We can change ourselves. All got to start with yourself.
Sepali, just one. Dr. Carmen Ratnatunga wants to also ask. Actually, he's saying sorry for questioning a bit outside the topic, but within your expertise. I agree that past life regression can be helpful to some patients. However, as a skeptic, I find that difficult to accept it as proof of rebirth. Can you please explain as a counselor who does past life
Can we leave it for the last?
Yeah.
And just remind me, please. I might forget. Okay. So what I said about all this trauma in the childhood is, and all the survival mechanisms, how we adapted our limiting beliefs, giving up our authenticity and disconnecting from ourselves because that attachment was so important. All that is really, really good as a child because it helps you to survive. And now you've survived. What happens? Now you become an adult. Then what happens? That's where the real problem starts of all the manifestations of the trauma. So you have now you've got used to having you got this limiting belief about yourself. You have adaptive mechanisms. You have compensatory behaviors. Now that's got into you, and now you're an adult. You are not that utterly vulnerable, helpless little child who had to entirely depend on the parents for survival. That situation has changed. Where you need the attachment was what was needed. Now that's not there. Now you're an adult, you're managing on your own, your parents, you don't need to be with your parents. All the mechanisms continue. All the limiting beliefs are now still continuing. The adaptations are continuing. The compensatory mechanisms, the behaviors, everything is now continuing. And then is when you're going to have the problem. Then you know something is wrong. Why am I feeling like that? I feel very empty, or my relationships are failing, and I can't get on with my spouse, and I'm depressed. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm so not motivated. I procrastinate all the time. I start something and I can't continue. And I can't stop shopping, or I can't stop watching pornography. I can't stop drinking. I know it's not good, but I can't stop it. So these are the problems. This is just a little few, but but it can also end with physical illness, disease, mental illness, emotional issues, relationship, gamut of everything. So that's what happens as when childhood trauma, and that's what happens in your adulthood. Then all these things come up, and I think that's what you were talking about. When you are unable to say no, then your relationships suffer because you cannot maintain healthy boundaries, and then you're bound to have issues. And by the way, if you want to know what your trauma is, see what issue you have with your spouse, partner, romantic relationship. 100% guaranteed, he or she will mirror back your belief to yourself. Circumstances in different ways, they'll mirror it back to you. They'll be holding the mirror to you. If you don't know, somebody said, I don't know what my trauma is, right? So if you want to know your belief about yourself, your spouse will mirror it back to you. Something he is doing or saying or not doing or something will trigger that belief you have. That'll come up. I'm not a good wife, I'm lazy, I'm not something. And that's 100% guaranteed it will come up in your relationships. But it also can come up with your friends, boss, work colleagues, in other situations as well. But with a partner, you can be sure.
It can only be analyzed by a certain person.
Yeah.
If they really are willing to think
exactly. It's all about willing work.
You have to first
you've got to be open to it. Yeah, you've got to be open to it, yes. And get the help if you need to get the help. Yeah, just show that. Let them.
If you get the message that you're not good enough, that you are not worthy enough, then you might spend the rest of your life trying to prove that you are. And how do you do that? By being very nice to everybody. By never saying how you feel, because they might not like how you feel. By never expressing healthy anger if somebody's crossing your boundaries. By working too hard to prove that you're worthwhile and you're stressing yourself. And those stresses have an impact on your physiology. They have an impact on your immune system. They have an impact on your cardiovascular system, on your heart, on your nervous system. They can cause disease.
Okay, all right. So what do you do? We need healing. What is healing? Can we see the next one? What is healing?
If the essence of trauma is a disconnection from ourselves, which it is, a disconnection from aspects of ourselves, then healing, again, to look at word origins, comes from an Anglo-Saxon or German Anglo-Saxon word for wholeness. So if trauma is disconnection and disease is the physiological manifestation of the disconnection, then healing is becoming whole again. Which means, but I shouldn't say becoming whole again, more accurately probably recognizing our wholeness.
Okay. So are you open to doing a short exercise? Anyone who likes to, others don't have to do it, not mandatory. So those of whom you are ready, would like to do it, just sit in a way you're comfortable. And you could either close your eyes or have them half open in a soft gaze, whatever is easier for you. And take a few deep breaths. One deep breath. And slowly exhale. Second deep breath in. And slowly exhale. One more deep breath in. And very slowly exhale. And bring your attention to your normal breathing, just noticing the in-breath and the out-breath as it happens naturally. And now find a place of tension in any part of your body, or tension or an unpleasant sensation in any part of your body. And notice it. And you can give it a number from 1 to 10, 10 being the most unpleasant, most amount of tension, 1 being the least. And see whether there is any emotion around that area of tension. If you do notice, just notice that. And while you're acknowledging this tension, the unpleasant sensation, and any emotion there, see what happens to it. And again, give it a number from 1 to 10. And again, you can, if the tension is very unbearable, you can take a few deep breaths again. And bringing your attention back to the normal breathing. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And would anyone like to share their experience?
Pain in my back.
Pardon?
A pain in my back.
You had a pain on your back, and what happened as you noticed it?
Actually, I felt it become less.
Yeah. Was there any emotion? Did you find the emotion?
No.
No, okay, all right. So it became less, okay? Good.
I don't know if it was because I was concentrating
Okay.
on the...
All right, anybody else? Yeah.
I couldn't concentrate on it.
You couldn't find a sensation. Okay, all right. Anyone else would like to share?
Have a heavy chest.
Heavy chest, yeah.
Think about it, a rate of 1 to 10, just about 8
Mm.
on both occasions.
Yeah. So it was the same. Okay. All right.
Tension in the stomach.
Mm. What happened?
Intestines feeling heavy.
Okay. Any emotion there? No, okay. What happened towards the end?
The breathing kind of eased it.
Pardon?
Focusing on it eased it. But
Was easier.
Still,
It's still there, okay. All right. So there were different experiences. For some it went down, some didn't feel it, some it was the same. Sometimes it can even increase. So the trauma is actually in the body and not in the mind. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and he's a psychiatrist, researcher, scientist, all scientific evidence and research. The body, the trauma is in the body and it's not in the mind. So when we work with trauma, we got to work with the body, the sensations in the body, and there's also emotion there. You might not always be able to get to that with the help of a therapist. If you're doing trauma work, you can do that. So working with trauma depends on where you are on the scale. You've got to work with the body, otherwise you're not going deep enough. And some of the traumas are you can't remember, like as you said about these adopted children, it's implicit memory, they cannot remember. So some of the traumas that's one coping mechanism is to make you forget, amnesia. Your mind makes you forget because you can't cope with it. But it's there in your body, and it gets to your body through your nervous system. Because when you're really angry, somebody has done something to you as a child, and you can't lash out or say it or do something, you suppress it. how do you suppress it? You suppress it, but this anger is there in the nervous system. And through the nervous system, it gets into your whole body. So that's how you can come up with illness and mental illness, physical disease, and emotional issues. So working trauma is in the body. I just wanted to illustrate that point. And you have to work with the body if you're doing trauma work, depending on the scale that you're on. So there are also other ways of working on your trauma. One is through movement. Because if it's in the body, you can also process it and let it out through the body. So Dr. Peter Levine, he's the person who created somatic experiencing. He says that there are three responses to trauma. Either you fight, flight, freeze. And trauma gets created if you cannot complete that cycle. So he does exercises, sometimes through your mind, sometimes actually doing exercises to complete that cycle. So movement helps. So it can be qigong, yoga, a sport, your exercise, anything. If you like to dance, it's dancing, breathing, breath work. There's something called body work. All those things will help you to process and release that trauma which is trapped there. So, a whole lot of things. Then another one is a creative activity. So if you have a creative activity like cooking, painting, playing an instrument, gardening, sewing, carpentry, making, whatever, creative activity will also help you. Because what happens is when you're in a creative activity which you enjoy, not because somebody else is telling you to do, which you like to do, you're actually connecting with yourself. So trauma is the disconnection, and with the creative activity, you're actually reconnecting with yourself. And another thing you can do is a spiritual practice that is helping you. Does not matter which religion, any spiritual practice that is helping you, that will also help. So if you can combine those three to your daily routine in a consistent way, you're going to feel it's really going to help you.
Earlier on you said trauma is in the body,
yeah.
not in the mind.
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is based on research,
I
Doctor.
respect the work that he has done.
Yeah.
But
Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah.
I certainly have a different opinion on that.
Sure.
Because I think it is all in the mind.
Yeah.
It's the mind that causes
disease, okay.
etc. Because later on you are talking about getting to the spiritual, creative work, etc.
Yeah.
Creative work is more here, mental rather than. So that's a subject for a completely other day.
Okay.
But that's where I feel.
Okay.
It
All
is,
right. So when you say mind, are you talking about the brain?
No.
Then where is the mind? What do you mean by the mind?
Nobody can say where the mind is.
All right.
Nobody can say that.
All right.
Brain hasn't got the mind.
Right.
It's a very
Thank you.
deep subject.
So, any questions? And also therapy. Trauma-informed therapy. It's not, you got the behavioral therapies, it helps. Talk therapy helps. I would say won't go deep enough. Yeah. Sorry.
Actually, Kaveri said that the same thing.
Yeah.
Trauma happens in the mind, but the results can be seen from the body.
Okay.
So if you want to get the trauma out, you have to get into the mind.
Okay.
To make it.
Okay.
I want to, two ways I want to explain it. One is from my own experience.
Okay.
Other one is, I think Dr.
Gabor Mate.
That I want. start with my personal experience. My parents were teachers. They are very all teachers. They are very responsible. So in those days, all the family, they bring their children to the headmaster's house and put over there. In my house, other than my family, there are 4 children. There were altogether 8 children. We were not enough space even to sleep. But I felt the same with my parents. They are not treating me well. They are not considering. Because they didn't show us any difference. Everybody is the same. Treated me the same way. So I had the day when we talk now about the trauma, then I think we have definitely a trauma on those days I had. But later on, somebody helped me to make up, because that trauma, that feelings came from my senses. Touch is not there. Exactly. They not allow you to talk to me. This is from 5 senses which I said that. But later on, when I grow up, when I got to know there will be another one. Why it happened? Then I analyzed it. That is, in Buddhism it says maybe prajna or something like that, but I'm not going to that word. When we developed that, then we understood, yes, that problem was in my mind.
Okay, all right.
That's the way I thought.
Okay.
But then I realized in the later on, my parents, in a different, their perspectives. That perspective is actually much, much better.
Okay.
Something like that. So then it comes to the Dr. K. person. He had the trauma. Because his grandparents were killed during the Holocaust. But later on, to be him in such a good researcher and doctor, I think that could have helped him.
Yeah.
The trauma is
very much,
bad.
very much.
It's good.
Yeah,
good.
He said I became a doctor so that I would feel that everyone needed me.
Yeah. Because,
but he was devastating his family. He said, I traumatized all my children, my whole family. My wife left because she couldn't deal with him and he was so angry all the time. He has ADHD. He still, sometimes you can say he can't. He says, it's my ADHD. So it had another impact. But rationally, he worked very hard. He's still very hard, but worked very hard. He was first an English teacher, then he wanted to be a doctor because his grandfather, who was killed in the Holocaust, was a doctor. He really worked hard, and he became a doctor. And he really worked hard as a doctor. But there was something wrong with him. He was not happy. His family, his wife left. Temporarily, she came back later. The children were not doing well. He was all the time angry at home. All was not well. That's what he said. All was not well. Yeah. So, if you're saying that because of the trauma he became a doctor, but he was not a happy man. So what is your measurement of success?
I want to finish that.
Yeah, sorry.
I also, during my career, a lot of traumas were there.
Well, we all do, yeah.
If someone develops that, then other than the 5 senses, analyzing the mind, if it realizes it is inside his mind.
Yeah.
It's not that third person is disliking.
Yeah.
It's your mind. You have that analysis of that.
Yeah.
Then it's very easy to work.
Yeah. So
That's my personal experience.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. But let me just explain. So there's something called the cognitive bypass. Have you heard that? So what happens when you can't deal with your emotions? You suppress it, and you develop this very strong muscle in your brain with the rational part. And you can analyze. You're very clever. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these people, very clever. But they cannot feel. But all is not well. So good that you can rationalize, and we have to have the rational and emotional balance. I'm not saying only we have the emotional part, no rational, but there has to be a proper balance. So what you do is you rationalize it, and you need to understand, excellent, very good. The rational part of the brain is very important. But if you think, now my problem is solved, what you have done is actually, this is my view, that you actually suppressed yourself. And can I say something personal to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were talking, I saw your eyes all moist and they were red. And what do you think that emotion is? When your eyes are moist, what are those?
Moist.
Hmm?
Okay, that felt what I went through.
Yeah, so what is when your eyes are moist, what are those? What is that?
It's emotion, right?
Yeah, what is the emotion? What's the emotion when your eyes are moist? Yeah. What came up for him as he was talking? If you have actually resolved, I'm not judging you because I have my own stuff. I'm not judging you. We are all in the same boat.
Sometimes it's a sad.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that if you are completely healed, that will not happen. So you have understood it to a certain level rationally, which is extremely good because you've got to know from that and then work from there. But that does not mean that what you went through has been healed, because otherwise that wouldn't happen. Because that's happened through your body. It happened through your body, and the emotion was there. So, because I'm trained to see it, I saw it. But that's what happened. So it is there in your body. It comes up with the body, and then we also talk about it. What was happening? What happened? How did you feel? What happened? And trauma happens when there's no one to support you with it. So say some person comes and brandishes a gun at you when you're alone at home, and oh my God, it's horrible. But then something happens and some people come and overpower him, and everybody's around you, comforting you, and don't worry, we will keep vigil, we'll be there for you, we won't leave you alone. So they are supporting you. I'm not alone in this. Everybody has gathered. I feel so supported. Then there's minimal trauma. I mean, you get scared for a little, but it won't overwhelm you and will come up later on. So if you have the support, it's about what happened, not what happened. What happened was the traumatic event of the man brandishing the gun. But what happens inside you is when you don't have the support. When the child is crying and he's hungry or just wants to feel the bond, the warmth, and there's no one to do it. Children will cry. They're all the time, and the mother says, mother knows this is a passing thing. The child is feel comforted. So then there is no trauma. A child will cry. The first 2 years, I'm sure, or maybe even later, but the infant will cry because he's feeling discomfort, or he's hungry, or he wants somebody there. And when he's held, when he's supported, then there won't be trauma. Because then he doesn't, otherwise he feels I'm all alone here. There's nobody for me. And what sort of a child will be all alone? Not lovable. That's his limiting belief. This is all happening unconsciously. Carl Jung, you've heard of Carl Jung? He said, if you're not conscious of the unconscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So this work is also about bringing your awareness and consciousness. Understanding, being conscious. So a lot of practices you can do. Mindfulness, Dr. Dan Siegel's therapy is mindfulness. lot of people are using mindfulness as therapy in the West. Any spiritual practice, if you want to pray and it's helping you, but yes, pray with intention, not just saying a prayer and in a mechanical way. Say it with intention, consciously, mindfully. If it's helping you, great. Any practice, anything which is helping. So if you think you're doing these things and it's not helping, you're still having the problem, then you've got to look at it again. Maybe you need to change what you're doing, or you're not doing the way it should be done, or maybe you're not consistent in the way you're doing it, so something like that. And if you need extra help, ask for it. What's the there's a thing called the mole and the horse. It says, what is the bravest thing you said? Yeah, what is the bravest you think? Help. That's a beautiful thing, the mole, the fox, the hare, and the boy. So the wise one is the horse. So what is the bravest thing you said? Help. We all need it. We are all in the same boat. So we don't have to judge anyone. So, and let me just quote something before we end. So this I quote from Joseph Goldstein. He's a meditation teacher. He says, love, compassion, and peace do not belong to any religion or tradition. They are qualities in each one of us, qualities in our hearts and minds. And that is our true essence. And that is where our wholeness is. It's getting back to that is our true, real healing. So one last clipping before we end.
I'm 79 now, and I wouldn't wish to be as young and stupid as I was when I was 78, you know? It is possible to grow old, which doesn't mean to get more decrepit. You need to grow as you get old. It's possible to do that. I hope and pray I can stay on that path. I know that I know more now, and I understand more now, accept more now, see more now. So in that sense, it's very comfortable. On the other hand, I don't swim as fast as I did 3 years ago or 5 years ago, you know? So that's something to be accepted. So what's it like? So far I like it. It's not the 79 aspect that I like, it's just having a bit more access to myself.
Do you feel like you know yourself?
I'm getting there. I've often said this, but I've written my epitaph. It's going to be carved on my gravestone. It's going to say, it was a lot more work than I'd anticipated. So it's just ongoing work, that's all it is. But that's not a negative thing. It's a good thing. It's a glorious thing.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions?
Question you had to ask.
Yes. The past life regression one. What was the question?
I agree that past life regression can be helpful to some patients.
Right.
However, as a skeptic, I find that difficult
Yeah.
to accept it as proof of rebirth.
Okay.
Can you please explain?
All right. So it's not for everybody. And if you don't believe in it, you don't want to do it, you don't do it. If you are not sure to believe or not, it has nothing to do about belief. If you want to believe it, believe. Some people think it's your mind has constructed something, that's what you experience. Fine. But did it help you? How are you feeling after that? What happened? Has it helped you for what you came for? That is all that matters. Believe, if you want, believe. Some of my clients say, I think I made it up. I said, it's okay, all right. How are you feeling? I feel better, I feel lighter, yeah. But like any therapy, past life regression, I use it as a therapy. It's all a process. Therapy is a process. Things don't change automatically, in the sense, what I mean is immediately. It's a process. It takes time, so you've got to work on it. But I want to say something about past life regression and QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis, what I'm doing. These are called spiritual therapies. And I want to say this, that have you heard of spiritual bypass, like the cognitive bypass? Okay, so I explained what cognitive bypass. We bypass the emotions and get to the rational level, and we are just there, but we are not real healing. Same thing can happen with spiritual bypass. So the pain is so much, you don't want to feel that. I'll get to the spiritual level and feel something here and feel good. And actually you may for a little while, but you're actually, if you've really not done the groundwork, that's not going to help you in a more deeper way. It will help you, but if you want to go to a deeper level, you've got to feel the pain, the emotion, what happened, understand, see it. Actually, in the way I do past life regression, the way I train with Weiss, he gets you to go to your childhood, memories, womb, past life. And the way I do it, it can be a past memory, it can be a insight, it can be a message, it can be a symbolic thing. So when somebody comes with a lot of trauma, if I feel it's more higher on the scale, I will not advise them to recommend going to the spiritual therapies, but I would work with compassionate inquiries, what I've trained to do with Dr. Gabor Mate, so I would work with that, and maybe later on, once there's a certain level of healing, get to that. And then you can also again go back to compassionate and go back to the spiritual therapies. So it's about anyone who knows about the chakras from the root to the, and as you keep healing, actually when you even start with the root, as your chakras keep opening, I don't know much about it, chakras, but you're actually opening to your spirituality as well. So if you do only that stuff, you're just here, but this part is unhealed. So there's got to be a balance. Yeah.
I have a question around these antisocial personality disorders, things like that, particularly narcissism. So the question is on narcissism.
Yeah.
And I feel that there's a lot of that in society at very high levels, from starting from politicians to CEOs.
Donald Trump is poster boy for narcissistic personality disorder, and trauma.
One of those things I feel even in Sri Lanka, we have very little knowledge of it. And your life partner might be a narcissist and you don't know.
Your
life partner might be a narcissist. Your parent might be.
Oh my goodness, yes. Happens all the time.
Yeah, but then what I've heard is if you come across a narcissist, there's nothing you can do. You need to look after yourself and stay away.
Correct.
I find it a bit conflicting because compassionate. If you're compassionate, you know this person is harmful, but that person is also in trouble. So
whom do you save first?
Who do you save first?
Whom do you save first?
Myself.
Then you will sort out how you're going to deal with the narcissist. You leave the narcissist, or you stay, and it won't affect you that much. And narcissism is about your childhood needs not being met. So they say it's me, I'm the greatest president, I'm this, I'm that. So it's all about me because his needs are not met as a child. But they are very toxic and very harmful. And especially when there are parents who are narcissistic, and that's the toughest relationship to deal with. Even as adults, we are taught to, so we have to be ever grateful to our parents, and so that their religious get in the way for them to see the truth. So compassion first has to come for yourself.
This is what I thought too.
Okay. So have you heard of Anita Murjani?
No.
Okay, so she says she had some experience. She almost died, and she's always, so she says you've got to, your cup, compassion, when you keep feeling it, at one point there's so much compassion for yourself, it'll just overflow. And compassion for you, just without any stress or depletion in yourself, you will feel compassion for others. No stress. So first it's about yourself, it's not being selfish. And also you can help others if you help yourself.
Can that compassion be also a sideline of not saying no?
Yeah, that's not true compassion. That is not real compassion. That's a coping mechanism. It's a bypass.
Not saying no.
Not saying no. So, and then we say, oh, I'm being kind, I'm being compassionate. You let that person attack you or treat you badly. That is not real compassion. Because if you have real compassion, you'll say, no, this is the boundary. You cannot invade my space and harm me. That is compassion for yourself. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
Not a question, but just a question.
Yeah.
In the first place, Hamduni, I would like to thank you and your team for organizing this wonderful event. I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday morning. Second thing is, I listening to you, Sepali, I was thinking, half of this audience should have been pregnant ladies, and the other half with very young mothers, because I was thinking, what am I doing, a grandpa here? This is too late for...
No, you must be having children, grandchildren. When you heal yourself, it helps your ancestors and your descendants. You know this story about, I think Hamduru will know, Visakha Situduwa. Who was she married to? He was a very, very rich person. Who was he?
Mikar.
Anyway, he's a very rich man. Extremely rich. You can imagine in India, when you say rich, really rich. And she was living in this household with the in-laws and all that. But they were extremely stingy, right? Yeah, extremely stingy. So even the food which was left over, they didn't throw away. They used to keep and eat it, because though they're extremely rich, extremely stingy. So when the bhikkhus came on Pindapata, they would give the stale food. And Visakha couldn't look on. So she ran and told them, don't come to our house for Pindapata because you're going to get stale food. And who heard this? Father-in-law. And you know, she would have had hell to pay. So he was very, very, very angry. But she was listening to the Buddha, and she got involved in the Dhamma, and then she changed as a person. She changed. And when she changed, that whole household changed, interpersonal neurobiology. That's what Dr. Danziger said. So when we change, it has to start with us. It will change the other. I mean, we can't do the work for the other person entirely, that you've got to do your own work.
The vibrations change.
Our energy. And I was wanted to say something about the energy. I think you said something about, narcissist. So if you have a narcissistic spouse, he's holding a mirror to you. Your energy, if you have a narcissistic spouse, it means you're very, very vulnerable to abuse, because you've got this limiting belief about yourself. I'm not good enough, or I have no value or something. And when you have this belief, it is in your energy. It is there in your, everything is energy, and you're limiting, we can't see it, and you will connect with somebody who will mirror it back to you, like the radio station, you listen to the channel and radio waves, boom, they connect. So you connect with that energy. He's holding a mirror to you.
You actually get attracted to.
You automatically happen. You don't have to think consciously. And you know, this on research, they were rehabilitating some pedophiles, and they asked them, well, how do you abuse this? What happens? How do you know whom to abuse? They said, and they were taken into a classroom. They selected 2 or 3 boys, and they said, just by looking, they don't know anything. Just they taken. This is some research experiment they did, and they selected these boys. We know we can abuse, and nothing will happen to us because they will not tell anybody. What did they do? They checked on those children. They were having dysfunctional families. They had trauma. And how did the pedophile? He has his own trauma. They have this very sharp instinct, predator instinct also, because of their own trauma, to know who their victim is. So all those children, they had no one to go and tell about it. They didn't feel they could talk about it and they'll be believed and they'll be supported. So they could get away scot-free, and these pedophiles knew that. And how did they know? How they were so accurate? Because their own trauma had given them this very sharp predator instinct. So it's your energy. And also they did another this thing about some soldiers who went to war. About 100 soldiers went and some bombs went off. So, but about 8 had PTSD. Others were okay. I mean, they would have been shocked and all that, but it didn't continue. So these 8 people who had PTSD, they found they had already, the primary trauma was in the childhood. They had already had this trauma. And trauma is also not only the big T's, which is very obvious, but it's also not being held, not being able to connect, your needs not being met, which is called developmental trauma in psychology. Okay, all right, anything? Yeah.
Thank you. Well, then to say that, during the Sri Lankan conflict,
yeah,
the majority of soldiers were recruits,
yeah,
from the rural areas.
Yeah.
So basically, in other words,
yeah,
there were more development trauma,
yeah,
in those areas.
So if they had, yes, if sometimes you want to go to the forces, or sometimes if they had PTSD or they suffered from it later on, the soldiers have PTSD. Yeah.
Okay, I have to thank Vindya. Vindya, are you there? So
I think I went past time.
Yeah. So thank you, Vindya, for inviting Sepali and this wonderful time, and it is really, really helpful for every one of us. And as the institute, we have been, social healing. That is what we are dealing with, and even after the war and war victory celebrations, I think we are the people who say, stop this celebration and nothing to celebrate. We need heal, and we are so many people are with wound. And what you shared here, I think, so important for us. And thank you, Sepali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.